Hey, I'm Susanna Lanier, actor and acting coach for over 25 years.
I'm Jess Greenberg, casting director for over 10 years.
We're here to help you navigate this crazy, creative, and sometimes chaotic journey into the film and television world.
We share our insights as to what works.
And invite some pretty spectacular guests to share more ideas to move you on your journey.
So without further ado, let's get into the show.
Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Tania Giampetrone. She has been a senior talent agent at Reisler Talent for over 20 years. Welcome, Tania.
Thank you for having me.
I'm
happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. So I guess how we always like to start is just how did you get your start in this industry? Because there's no program or diplomas for talent agents. So how did you get into this? How did you start?
It's a little bit crazy. So do you want the short or the long version? I think I'll just tell you, and then you guys can go, hey, this is a lot. But I think everything led me to this. I think I was meant to be an agent. I think I had all the clues as I did my studies and worked on sets and kind of touched a lot of stuff from a very young age. I mean, in school anyways. I always knew I wanted to work in the business. I was 4 and I had my little radio tape player and I'd invite kids and interview them and I'd put up shows, and I was in kindergarten and I tried to put up a play, which showed up for rehearsals. It was kind of just always in me, right?
Yeah.
This creative side. I love to paint. Everything was arts for me. Always, always, always. Everything was artistic. But I'm a very A-type personality. When I was a kid, I didn't like to get dirty. I didn't want dirty children to touch me. It's just so I have this strange combination of personality traits that kind of seem obvious, that I would probably be in something organizational or organizing people or being with people and that kind of thing, but in the artistic field, right? So I always knew I was going to study that, and I went into literature and communications and CJAP at Brébeuf. And that was a fun time because I think you get to touch a lot of stuff in CJAP, right? You're not specialized yet. So I did radio, I did photography, I did literature and film, where we'd read the book and then watch the movie. We'd study actors. We made movies. We did radio. We did everything. We touched everything. And we were mentored as well by professionals. So, a professional came in and told us all the jobs they had done. And our teachers would say, don't tie yourself down. Don't already decide what you're going to do, because when you work in this field, you're going to do a lot of things and you need to be open-minded about that. So very young, I think, you're 16, 17, you kind of go, okay, I've got to be open-minded about this. I don't know where I'm going to end up, and that's okay. So I think the mentorship, I worked with a very known DOP and I worked with a producer. And so I was mentored by these people at that age, which is a great program. But that was a lot of fun because
ad for Brébeuf.
Yeah.
I think what's fun about it is because I did the academic side as well. I think they were more trying to open our minds to what we could do and what we could become. And a lot of people also, I was exposed to people whose brother was shooting a movie or video clip because he was a producer. So I'd be invited on set and I'd, work the smoke machine and I'd do whatever. I tried a bunch of stuff. And then I also kind of somehow stumbled upon an agent, a music agent, and worked for him a little bit. Unpaid, but whatever. Went on tour with France d'Amour, to Ottawa, and did a bunch of crazy things. So I kind of saw what the agent was doing. I was always dropping by his office. I don't know. I think he probably thought I was harassing him, but it was because I wanted to connect with the industry. I wanted to meet people. I was so ambitious, really young. And then I went into script writing at UQAM. Did that for a year. So that was a 1-year program. Then it went to film school at Concordia, did a bachelor's and a master's. So my backup plan was to teach if I wouldn't work in the industry.
Right.
And so that was more the academic side, right? Of really crazy analysis, going into depth on looking at the whole work of Marlon Brando and watching all his movies and analyzing his acting and analyzing film structure. And, so all that is also an education for an agent, because you really kind of understand the language of film, of script, of acting, of all these things. And then when I was graduating, I saw an ad in the Gazette where they were looking for an agent's assistant. And I basically harassed Molly until she hired me. That was it. So yeah, so it's like a very crazy path, but I think I knew what an agent was. And when I saw the ad, I said, this job is mine. I knew it in my soul. I knew that was where I was meant to be. And when they didn't get back to me, I was like, this is impossible. This job is mine. I'm going to get this. And I just kept sending my resume in English and in French. I'd call it. So they said, okay, let's see this girl. Apparently they thought I was overqualified. But I didn't.
You didn't care.
Yeah.
I guess being an agent, you have an eye to spot talent, and your intuition, but also knowing the technical side of it and having studied it, I think also really lends itself well to spot that talent and also coach them on what they should do to hone their craft and really foster them. So it is a cool mix and background.
Oh, I do think it's a cool mix. And I also think it just, you'll connect, you connect more to the performer, and you have, like you said, both sides, which is amazing, the artistic side, but also the organizational side, which you also need. And so you have both, which I think is great.
It's similar in casting in that, like with agents too, we're both using both sides of our brain. There's the creative side where we're, for on casting, we're reading scripts and brainstorming and writing breakdowns and things like that. And then the other half is the business side of negotiating and contracts and all that. And that's always what I loved about this job, is like getting to do both. And so I don't know if that's the same for you, is like having that balance of the creative and, and the business side as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that there's something, we all have different mixtures of personal traits, and you kind of have to find where you fit. Like even with casting, right? When I was in film school, friend of mine was at UQAM and I was at Concordia, and everyone's shooting their movies, right? And it's expensive because we're shooting in 16 millimeter and everything. And so people would shoot their movies. The acting was terrible. Like the acting was terrible because everyone hired their uncle or their brother, like you go. And we said, this cannot keep happening. We're watching beautiful movies, right? Shot gorgeous and like the moving camera and everything. And then, the acting comes. And so we said, we're going to do a casting. We're going to go out there. And so what we did, we were students and we held a casting session. We didn't know what we were doing, honestly. And we just like did a binder of all these actors in Montreal who were willing to do student films. And I had the binder at Concordia and she had one at UQAM. And we were like helping people cast their movies.
That's
right.
Fantastic.
So that, again, it's like this crazy thing that kept pushing me in that direction. I feel like I was that person who wanted to organize stuff, who wanted to find professional actors, who wanted to connect people. It was there the whole time, right?
Yeah.
So I think the job just felt natural for me.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Very cool.
So in the industry, we see trends, we see changes. Obviously the biggest one was the pandemic and change to self-tape and all this stuff, but I mean, there's been others. So like what for you has been like the biggest changes, and what's been the same? Like what has remained constant in this?
So Susanna, you can confirm this, but when I started, right, slides would come in by fax and courier.
Yeah.
Demos were on VHS.
Yes.
Right. So the way we worked was completely different. I think there was positives to it because we had more time, because people would say, send me demos, and then I'd have to put a bunch of VHSs in in an envelope and ship them off, or tapes, like little tapes or CDs of people's audio demos, and ship those off. And We'd take people's headshots, print up their resumes, and send that off. So submissions were done in a very strange way. We had a much smaller roster, and I remember we would have to refuse work all the time because we just couldn't make it work.
Right.
There was just so much work when I started.
Yeah.
I don't want to depress people, but I remember
I know. This is supposed to be uplifting, Tania. I think we're on a downward spiral. Yeah.
But yeah, people would come out of theater school, they were 18, and they'd book a television series and make 6 figures. It was,
Wow,
it
it's
was
crazy.
right?
Yeah.
There was all this stuff from YTV at the time. There was, it was good days. I mean, honestly, we were all young. Like a lot of my clients, they've been with us. I've known them for 22 years. So when we first met, we were all single. We were all out drinking together. You know, now we all have kids and we're all married and we're all like, you know,
Boring,
represent their kids too.
I represent their kids. Yeah. But yeah, you know, those were different days. And I think we have to adapt. I think that's the thing, right? Actors need to adapt. Agents need to adapt. I think that's part of being successful.
Yeah.
Is to see where the market's going and to try to figure out how you can work in those markets that are evolving. Gaming, for instance, right? All those people in the voice market had to reinvent themselves and figure out how they could work in that market. So because a lot of things happen, right? CNR went down, Cinegroup went down. There was a bunch of companies, there was a bunch of casting people who just call and offer roles that suddenly disappeared from the face of the earth. And all that work we had disappeared. So then we had to figure out, okay, how are we going to make this work? Where can we find more work? How can we reinvent our clients? What can we do? And it comes down to the basics, right? You need to work on your material, have good headshots, update your resume, training, right? All those things. Theater openings are always my favorate thing. I have one tonight, actually. So
good. Yeah.
Because with the pandemic, it kind of went, but yeah, those are places where people connect. And I think people need to network. If your agent, if you know that and you know, you have to kind of think about it, but if you know that there's an opening you want to go to, most probably your agent has tickets. Maybe you can be their date. Maybe you can go network there. Maybe you know someone who's in the show and they can get you tickets for the opening, right? Even if you have to pay or whatever. But if you show up to openings, who's there? There's casting directors, there's agents, there's a lot of, you know, top tier actors because they get invited as well. So those are places to network. You know, the Actor Awards, show up. Even if you're not nominated, doesn't matter. Go, encourage other people. You need to make connections, because I have connections as an agent, yes, but you need to make your own. And together we network and we create something, right? Because it's all about relationships. It's all about my relationship, casting, my relationship with my clients. All those things need to be developed in order for an actor.
I so love that you said that, Tania, because before we started, I said, I want to ask her about networking because I've been teaching now myself for 18 years. I am telling the students, like, it is fantastic to work on your craft. And yes, please keep coming to my class. And class is a great place to network too. Networking is so much part of it. What are your suggestions for actors new starting out? Like how to, I have a question. How should they network with their agent? Like how to build that relationship? Because I told them that is important. You can't maybe call them every week, but because they're busy, but there's a way.
I don't mind. I really don't mind.
There you go.
Do you know, so Gordon Masson is deceased.
Yes.
My sweetheart. He would call me every day. He called me every day for 20 years. Every day for 20 years.
I'd say that's a bit much, but
he's the only actor who did that. But Gordon, that was him. That's what he needed. But also I knew everything. I knew what he was going to wear for the hardware commercial. I knew about him. I knew every doctor's appointment. I knew everything. I didn't have to check his schedule. I knew everything. I knew how the audition went. I know when a celebrity was a jerk to him. I almost said a bad word. But, like I knew it affected him, and I calmed him down and I said, you know your worth. I knew that Gordon always showed up. I knew that he's never I've never been, like, Angie would call me and say, I remember when she apparently left like the audition room, she told everyone in the room, you guys need to be like this guy right here.
Wow.
Is always prepared. If he goes in for a film, a two-liner, he will watch that director's movies before he goes in, just for the
Wow.
first round. That's who he was, right? So I think I don't even know what the question was.
Well, how would
But
you
my
like,
relationship, yeah, the relationship is going to be different with everyone. If you think about what you need and what your questions are, you can call me. I'm always there. Look, every agent's different. I'm very open. I like to talk. Can you tell? But
okay.
but I'm okay with people calling me if they have questions. I would rather that than you not tell me something,
Yeah.
right? I would rather
Yeah.
that than you have questions and not ask me. I would rather you say, hey, or even text me or whatever and say, I did the audition. It went super well. I got great feedback, whatever. Hey, I just had somebody who is starting out in voice. They said, can you listen to this and give me notes? I know I have till Wednesday, next week or whatever. I'd rather you listen to it now. So I listened to it. I gave them notes. They're going to re-record. That's what I want. I want you to tell me what's going on. I want you to tell me that you're insecure about this part of the industry, or you're confident about that, or you'd rather start with this, or you don't want to do theater right now, or you'd rather, everyone has I can't guess. I cannot
Right.
guess. I need the communication. I would rather you over communicate. Yeah, don't call me to just say,
Talk about
hey.
lunch or whatever. Hey. Yeah.
Some
Hey.
people do, but I
Who's
allow the
this?
seniors to do that. If you're over 80, you can ask me anything. You can talk to me as
Okay.
We
much
should
as you want.
gossip.
That's okay. But yeah, but I think in order to build a relationship, you need to be open. You need to be honest. You need to ask questions. I need to know where you're coming from. I really want to know what you want to do, because people sometimes would say, well, it's been 2 years that I want to be working the French market. And I'm finding about this now. Why
Yeah.
didn't you say anything to me? I could have had you work the French market. You're an Anglophone, that's fine. But I don't know your comfort level in French if you never spoke to me in French. I don't know that you've been working on it. I don't know that, you've been working on this and that or whatever. So you need to kind of come to me. I have even a client who's trained, had kids, did voice most of her life, said, now that my kids are grown, I'm taking classes. I want to do film and TV again. Great. I'm excited, right? Let's do it.
Yeah.
So we kind of take baby steps and that kind of thing. So you have to just be honest, be open. Yeah.
And so I remember Simon Peacock said that he appreciated, if people have take the video game workshop to, get, because we'd say, how could they get in touch? He's like, I like when they get in touch, but I like when they have something. So just to send an email, like, just to let you know, I'm still available, but to say, I updated my voice demo. I just wanted to let you know, or, send the updated voice demo, or saying like, I just booked so this and this, and it was great. And I just wanted to let you know, I'm, working on this right now. And here's a sample. So kind of get in touch every couple of months, maybe for the voice directors, not every week, but say, I'm working on this. That's what I tell the students to show that you're working on it, not just to say, I'm still around, don't forget me, to have something, because people, I think, appreciate that you are trying to up your level and you're doing the work. You're taking care of your side of the street, and now you need a little help. And what I told them is, people want to help if they see you're working at it. They don't want to help if they see you're like, why is nobody hiring me? But you're not actually doing anything. So, and I suggested with agents, and I didn't know that, some agents like Tania is open to receiving phone calls. I said, like, on a regular basis, but I said, to get in touch with your agent if you hadn't heard from them for 2 or 3 weeks, and just to say like, hey, I've been, taking classes, or I'm working on the show, and I just wanted to know what was happening right now. Like I said, it's okay to check in every couple of weeks. It's not, I didn't say every day, and, but I said every couple of weeks. And I said, I think it's a good thing, because if not, you can get, I don't want to say forgotten. It's not that they mean to, but let's face it, you want to be in people's minds. And so you've got to put yourself out there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if somebody's working on something, they're saying, hey, I'm working on a short film, or I'm doing a class with so-and-so, or I'm workshopping, or this is exciting, I wanted you to know. Yes, it shows me that they're trying to progress, that they're working on their craft. And I like, again, I think everything's a partnership. Like, call me and say, hey, do you think I should take this workshop? Should I do this? Right?
Yeah.
A lot of people ask me, I would rather you also call me, please. Talk to your agent before you get headshots done. That's the
Okay.
biggest boo-boo.
Good to
I
know.
have looked at a lot of headshots in my life, right? And
Mhm.
that's my tool. It's my tool. It's not your tool. Like, yeah, people are looking at it, but I use your pictures to submit you for roles. So every time I see a role, I'm attaching a picture every time, every time, every time. And if it's a picture that I don't think is working, but you're really sure. And so it's a discussion, right? Of maybe you like this picture and I like this, but let's talk first before you even go in and say, what are you going to wear? What are the colors for you? Think about the roles that you book and dress accordingly. If
Mhm.
you want to play young professionals and then you're going to play a tough guy and then you're going to play, then find the outfits that work, get the attitude behind it, because it's not a portrait. Headshots
Yeah.
are not portraits. Forget about looking cool. It's not about looking cool. It's not about, if I can't see your face. I recently saw a bunch of headshots and a lot of them, the actor's face had a lot of shadow on it. So if it's this big, right, it's tiny on the casting director's screen, and on my
Yeah.
screen, they can't figure out if you're going to be able to play, the role of the cop or the lawyer or whatever. Or the romantic sidekick or whatever.
Yeah.
You need to be able to see the picture and say that person would really fit in that role. So you
Yeah.
have to start thinking, when you're doing headshots, think about the job. What is this picture supposed to do for you, right? Don't wear stripes. Talk about colors. Talk about photographers that you're thinking of using. Let's go to their website. Let's look at it. I think you have to have this conversation, especially younger actors, right? Yeah, again, Tyrone, I don't need to explain to him what to do. He has his photographer. His shots are always great. I don't really kind of have to hold his hand. But younger performers often will say, I'm going to use my friend. He's so good, blah,
I
blah,
know.
blah. It's great, but show him what you want. Go to websites. Tell him,
Yeah.
these are the types of pictures I want. Look at actors who are successful and look at their headshots,
Mm-hmm.
right? And does it reflect who they are as an actor? What do you want those pictures to reflect? That's a tool. When you have no resume, the only other thing you have is your headshot and your demo. So those things have to be really solid. You can't
Yeah.
Yeah.
fool around with that. Yeah. So I think all those discussions about how to edit your demo, all those things, your voice demo, you're going to get a voice demo. Where are you going? Who's going to do it? What kind of commercials? What is the placement? Which track do you put at the front? Which track do you put at the back? Because I've been on the phone with producers and they will listen to the first 10 seconds of your voice demo. They don't listen to the rest.
Right.
Those first 10 seconds have to represent you, your natural voice. And then you go into the notes if they actually decide to listen further. But these are things that we know as agents and that performers don't always know, particularly when they're green, because we're on the phone with the producer, we're on the phone with casting, we know what they like, we know what books. So you have to have those discussions, and I think sometimes it's difficult to take criticism or hear someone's opinion that might not be what you were expecting, but you have to be open to it and you have to trust that your agent has a lot of experience, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
between Molly and I, there's 60 plus years of experience. We've seen a lot of things. We know what we're saying, but
And
there
you
has to
also
be
have a
balance.
successful roster. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, you have great actors and talent that have a lot of work experience. That says something too.
So I also wanted to know, how do you feel? Because students have asked me if they look at casting workbook, or if they have a friend going in for an audition, they're helping them with the self-tape. And then they're like, how come I wasn't submitted for that? If they call you and ask you, I saw this on casting workbook, or my roommate is auditioning for this, would I be able to be submitted for it also? How do you feel about that?
Oh, you should.
Oh,
You
good.
should.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Good. That's good. Because
I
a
think
lot of
that's
them feel really bad. I don't want to tell them how to do their job. And I don't want, they feel super shy about, and I was like, look, I don't know. I said, I think it depends on your relationship with your agent. So, and find out, like, those are questions to ask. Would your agent mind? And if they're like, yeah, like, listen, if you want to be submitted for something, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Right, because sometimes it could be something silly, like, oh, they need to play the ukulele, and you never told me you played the ukulele. It's not on your resume. So I look on everyone's resume at the bottom, because that's how we do it. There's no ukulele. I don't know. And I'm not going to call every actor on my roster and ask them, hey, do you play the ukulele? I'm
Right.
kind of going to go on what I know. So you say, hey, I should, why am I? And I say, okay, fine. It could be a miss. It could be that I did submit you and casting did not request to
Yeah.
see you. And then I can say, let me call and see why. And
Yeah.
the casting director may say, oh, no, they've kind of shifted and they're going in a different direction. So all those conversations need to happen. And I think they need to happen quickly, because you can build this stuff up. An actor can build questions up in their head and go, I don't think they're submitting me. And, you don't want to let something small grow in your head.
Yeah.
Talk about it. A relationship between an actor and an agent is like any other relationship. I think people have to understand how personal it is. It's a long-term relationship. So it's like your relationship with your partner or with your family or whatever, or your best friend. If you're not honest, if you're not communicating, if you're not bringing up the small things and you're kind of keeping stuff bottled up and you're questioning them and then you start doubting, it's going to go nowhere, right? You need
Right.
to
Yeah.
treat it like other relationships. A healthy relationship between agent and client will always have to be, there has to be respect, honesty, and trust. Those are like basic things that you need to have.
Yeah.
That's great.
That is
I
great
do.
advice.
Yeah. I do have one more question on the networking. And how would you recommend, you did also start telling about the openings and stuff. How can they build relationships? Now we know how you like to operate with the agent, but with other people, like you said, maybe theater openings and mixers and stuff like that. Like, how should they think? Because they have to understand how important building those relationships are. So do you have any suggestions for them to build relationships?
I do notice that people who network generally stay in contact. First of all, you stay in contact with the other students, because they're all kind of going to be in the field. And yeah, take classes, because if you're doing classes, you're going to be in contact. Just kind of try to stay in the industry as much as possible, because those people who kind of branch off, do their own thing, don't want to go to open, it generally doesn't really help, right? So you have to
Right.
kind of stay in contact with other actors and yeah, go to openings. And like you said, if you know someone who's a voice director, I'm not harass them, but let them know. Say, hey, I heard that you're directing. I'm open. I'd really like to, can I sit in? Everything you said that you did, that's what I tell my actors to do who are
Right.
already
I say
kind of
audit because
working.
you're not asking, like, can you cast me in your next project? Because that feels a little intense. But to say, like, I think people appreciate, like, and I really am in that level. I want to learn. This is really new for me and I enjoy it. If there's any opportunity for me to learn, I would love that. And I think people appreciate, oh, this person is really wants to learn, people want to help in general. I find people want to help. So I think that's for me. I mean, everybody has a different way. What I also say is find your way. Like, you can be a shy person, but still figure out some way of making connections that feel right for you. I have my like class clown types who will walk into a mixer, go, who's the direct, they'll go up to Denny Arcand and go, you forgot to cast me, with a laugh, and he'll laugh
Yeah.
because they're so confident about it and they're so good at it, right? But I'm not like that. Like, I would never do that. But some people are
Yes.
and they're good at it. So I think you've got to figure out where your comfort level is and then
Yeah.
push a little further.
Yeah, you have to figure out
Further.
where, how you can network. So I even have
Yeah.
a client who's a voice who just pretty much does mostly voice. And what she does is every year she sends out kind of little presents
Yeah.
to producers that have hired her. And it could just be like a postcard saying, thank you for hiring me on whatever, on, this insurance commercial. I had so much fun working with you, whatever. She sent like people packages in the summer. She sent them chocolates. Before she used to like have her demo attached, but people, so you can send a link, send a link wishing people happy holidays. We've done it where we did an agency voice demo. So I kind of pulled all these videos of all my different clients and we sent out at the beginning of the year, like, hey, we can't wait to work with all of you. Here's like an agency voice demo with all my clients kind of mixed in so you can see. So to remind producers when they come back into the new year, that I have all these people on my roster. So,
Yeah.
you know, we all network in our own different ways. It could be, like I said, a postcard, an email. It could be showing up to an opening. It could be taking a class. And if you're going to take a class, I always say, take a class with someone who can actually help you, you know,
Right.
like someone who has, like, there might be a class that you find interesting, or you can take classes with different people and they're all very good. But if you have the choice between a voice director who's teaching it and someone who is not a director, and one of them can hire you and one of them can't, I'm sorry to say, I would
Oh,
go
no.
with the voice director,
Yeah,
right?
no, I said the
Yeah.
same thing.
So,
I said the exact same thing. And
oops,
I
I'm
look,
sorry.
I'm not a director. I'm not going to hire anybody, but I said like look out for workshops, especially if you're doing weekend workshops and stuff. Like regular training is regular training, but weekend workshops, if they're a casting director or a voice director or somebody who you may get hired, because I took a workshop back in the day with Deborah Toffin at Cinar and I got hired. That was, you know, I was like 22, just graduated, and I got a gig from that, you know, and I just took one here with Richard Dumont, who was amazing, and I got a gig from that. So like it really does make a difference, and it's great. It's just, and it's so much fun. So yes, look out for people who are like directors and casting people, so that can help you. Also, though, I would like to say in my class, in our last episode, we had teens 14 and 16, Katie and Erica, who have now moved to Toronto, and they're a writing duo, and they've written 11 scripts now, sold 11 scripts together, and they met in my class when they were babies. So, well, it's 14 and 16 in the teen class, which I don't teach a teen class anymore. So, like you said, stay in touch with the people around you and build these relationships, because the people you're meeting in theater school are the ones who are going to be pursuing this, and they'll be doing all sorts of things.
What is your, or like Reisler's MO? Is it really that, is it just talent, or is there, like, how would you say you build out your roster?
It's a combination of things, right? So I think, yeah, there's some actors that there's just, I would make room for them no matter what. I mean, could you imagine not making room for Tristan? Come on, that's craziness, right? Like, he was as talented at 19 as he is today. But today it's different, right? Because we don't always get to see people on stage necessarily.
Right.
But I think, yeah, there's the paper stuff that we're kind of looking for training. You're looking for tools that I can promote you with.
Yeah.
So if I see that someone's ready to work, right? So great photos, good look, resume, good demo material. And then if they don't have things, but I see something in them, or I think, oh yeah, they could work all these markets, or it could be whatever. I see that they do martial arts. I'm like, okay, they could probably do, you know, motion capture, and they have stage combat, and they're bilingual. And so you're starting to think of all the markets they can work in. They're not competitive with anyone on your roster, because you don't want, like, one day I remember a guy walked in and he was literally Simon Peacock's clone, and he was Australian. It was weird. But so
You're like,
why would I take him? I already have Simon Peacock. I don't need two of them, right?
right.
So as long as they're not like in direct conflict with a client, and then I will put them through a series of little tests to see if they can pass them, right? So I'll say, send me 2 contrasting scenes. You know, I want to see what you can do. It's up to you, but maybe something comedic, something tragic, whatever. And then I wait to see how long it takes them, right? If I ask you to do something and you get back to me 4 months later, then
No.
I'm not even going to consider you. If you get back to me 4 days later and it's really solid, then I'm like, okay, this person wants to work. They can, if I ask them to tape, if they get a self-tape, they're going to do it. If they come up with excuses, or even if I say, okay, well, we can meet you this day, this time, if they're going to move everything around to meet me, that's great, because this should be their number one priority. But I've already had a potential client say they wanted me to go to them, to come to a cafe near their apartment 2 hours away from me, because they didn't want to come and see me. It was too far for them.
Yeah.
Are they going to work in this industry, right? So there's a series of tests that I have people pass to see really how committed they are. And of course, you know, if they know other people that I know, and those people speak well of them, then that's helpful for sure, right? But see, what if an agent asks you for material, it's because they're interested.
Right.
Don't botch the opportunity by wasting time.
Yeah.
Show me that you're committed. If
Yeah.
someone says, hey, can you send me more, headshots or whatever, or show me your session of your headshots, send it. Whatever they ask for, do it, because they're showing that there's interest.
Yeah. And don't waste that opportunity. Note to everyone, if you're looking for an agent, have demos ready, have a resume ready, like, or maybe not a professional demo yet, but have scenes that you can show and share to an agent, and have that already before you even approach agents. I've compared, I guess acting, casting specifically, but now hearing more like the relationship between talent agents and actors, like it's so similar to dating and like the love life. Like it's crazy.
It is.
It's like, invest in yourself and like live your best life, and then that's what you'll attract. And it's the exact same thing. It's like agents want actors who want to work. They want actors that will invest in themselves and continue to like take workshops and classes and like help yourself, and we'll help you. Help me to help you. And like, yeah, it's the same thing. And I guess that's just very important in life.
It is. And I think, it all comes about relationships, right? A relationship between me and you, right? As a casting director and as an agent is based on trust. If I tell you my client can do something and I'm lying, you will not trust me again when I say someone else can do something, right? If I'm honest with you, if I'm not, like, if you overpay me and I cash in the check, well, not you, but like an engager. I had an engager who overpaid me by $1,400 last week, and I told him, I'm like, you sent me too much money, and I sent it back to him. Like, we have to be honest with engagers. And it's a new engager, and he was like, oh my God, I want to sit down with you. I want to have coffee with you. I want to talk about your roster, because he sees that I'm honest. And that's, again, we have to be honest. There has to be honesty. There has to be respect. It's all those basic human things, because it is a small industry and we all work together, and you don't want to ruin your reputation by making a boo-boo, or by making someone upset, or not being truthful, even in your capacities as an actor. Don't fake it till you make it, like that whole thing. I don't pretend that you can do something that you can't. Know what your value is, train until you can get there, but don't tell me, oh yeah, I can do an RP accent perfectly, if you can't. Because that's gonna make all of us look bad. Like,
and it's
just let me know where your skills lie and be honest about that, right?
Yeah. I think fake it till you make it, in terms of like knowing your value, walking into a room with confidence. If you don't feel confident, then you can, but don't fake it till you make it. I can do any accent. I can do 18 backflips. I can play the ukulele. You're like, I'm confident. You're like, you're terrible.
I think if you're like, listen, I don't need to, because this has happened already where, so Tyrone Benskin, again, Tyrone is so amazing. This man, I think he probably has the biggest audition to booking ratio to any human ever. But he had this audition and he had to play the saxophone. And we said to him, you need to play the saxophone. And he said, I don't need to play the saxophone. I'm an actor. I can make pretend I'm playing a saxophone. What is this? No, I'll go in and I'll tell them. I will tell them, I'm going to concentrate on what I do. I'm going to concentrate on the acting. Forget it. The saxophone thing is like nonsense. So he went in and he got into the room. He did his audition. He told them all this. They called us from the audition room and booked him. They hadn't finished casting it yet. They didn't see anyone else. He was still in the audition room. They called and booked him because he knew his value. He knew that his skill was acting, and that the saxophone was irrelevant. So those kind of things are important too, to kind of not limit yourself, because there's the small little thing, right? If you can figure a way out of it, and you say, I'm going to save this booking by doing something else, by explaining to them my point of view. There's a lot of things that actors do. I remember David Gow, he's in Vancouver now, but he would see breakdowns and he'd be asked to go in for something. He's like, I want to be seen for this. And I'd tell Andrea, and she'd be like, oh, I don't know, whatever. And I'm like, well, he really wants to get the sides. Okay, fine. And he'd get the role he wanted because he really felt that was the role for him. You have to be able to tell us, the industry, say, I really want to read for this. Like, I think I could do this. I know it's a big role, but let me just get me in the room and I will do it. Right. So confidence is also really, really important as well.
Yeah. And to really don't jump on that. Like that can't be your go-to, but it's, when you do feel super strongly about a role, then to take action on it, but not to abuse that
Right, you can't
Does that make
exaggerate
sense?
either, where you always want
Yeah.
to go in for the lead and you don't want to read anything else. But I think if you know your capacity and you're like, oh my God, this role is me, right? And there's a bunch of like famous actors who do that all the time. So I think for us, we have to think as a business
Mm-hmm.
where the money's coming from and be respectful of our clients who are saying, I want to focus on this. I would like to try that. I'm willing to do whatever, work across the country and do theater. I want to do theater in Vancouver. Okay, we'll book you theater in Vancouver. This artistic director reached out. And I have to be respectful of their desire, even if I know that I'm shipping them to another city where they cannot be doing other things while they're doing that
Right.
theater. Because at the
Right.
end of the day, it's their career and it's their happiness, and that investment of what they're going to bring back and all the joy and all that work is going to bring more work. So I think you have to be respectful of the desires of your client and adapt.
Yeah. This was something I was going to ask, because you represent artists who, like, we talk a lot about diversifying, especially in Montreal and I mean probably throughout Canada, I would say. But also your roster too is diverse. Like, you represent writers and people who do really more specifically voice and even radio and not even TV. So I think it's just good to highlight. And if you have anything to add to that, it is about diversifying. And
I think it's diversifying, but also being respectful of actors. I think some at certain, because sometimes people will say, yeah, I want to do more writing, and can you represent me with this script? And we're going, oh, okay, that's okay. Let's try that. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's work this market. Let's try that. And by that kind of, again, necessity, those different representations or those different industries, we ended up working in all of them. So I think it just it happened organically. I don't know that it was necessarily something that was decided. When
yeah,
you see a market growing, you kind of try to get into it. But yeah, I think it happens over time.
very cool. Well, that's like, yeah, a beautiful thing that it's part of the investment is like the actor's joy and what they bring back. Like that is beautiful, like literally.
Yeah.
So nice.
Yeah.
That it's
So
just as
nice.
important as the paycheck at the end of the day is the enjoyment in it.
I think I wanted to bring this up because this is something that I've been thinking a lot about, is what makes an actor successful, right? Because I think it was in the list of questions. And I've seen really good actors let their insecurities or their fears of not being cast get in the way of booking. I think that's the biggest thing, is like, you're so afraid of investing, because if you invest your time and you invest your energy and you don't get booked, it would have been a waste of time. And I think that's a huge problem that people need to let go of. You need to give 150%. If you're not committed to the role, if you're not committed to acting, if you're not committed to your agent, if you're not committed every sense of the word to the process, you're not going to book. You need to give 120%. You can't just kind of go, well, I'll kind of learn the lines and I'll kind of do it and it'll be okay. And the audition's just okay. But you know what? There's like a bunch of other people who are going to do okay auditions. And then there's people who are going to do good auditions. And then there's people who's going to do great auditions. And one person's going to do a crazy, phenomenal audition and they're going to book it, right? And
Yeah.
that's exciting when I see all the tapes one after the other, and I see okay tapes, and then I see somebody who does a crazy good, I'm fist pumping, like, that's it, you did
Yes.
it, that's what you gotta do, you nailed it, awesome. I'm screaming at the screen, but I'm so excited because I know they did it, they committed. That's what I want to see. If you book it or not, it's irrelevant. You did your job. Do your job. Like, I do my job, you do your job. And it's like, it doesn't sound great when I'm saying it, but I think it's just like, just give it, like, bring
Yeah.
it, do it, it's like, let go of all this other stuff and just give what you can. And if you're not sure, right, because sometimes, yeah, people are green and so they think they're giving it, but they're maybe going too big, or then ask for adjustments. Tape a little bit ahead of time, ask for adjustments. If it's a big role, don't be afraid to go out and get a private coach to help you book that role. even if you don't get it, the casting director will see it and go, oh my gosh, I didn't know they could do that.
Yeah.
Right? Some people have booked
room.
the roles of their lives
Mhm.
by getting private coaching with
Yeah.
really good coaches. I've seen it happen.
Mhm.
And I've told them, like, you cannot go in and just do it. You need to have a second pair of eyes on this. And someone who really knows what they're doing, because this is big. This is huge. This is a life-changing role.
Yeah.
So those are the things that you have to think about, you know. All those things need to come together. You have to be willing to do all the work. And people talk about bookings. I always say every good audition brings a booking. It may not be the job you're auditioning for, but it will get you a booking because everyone's watching you. You're learning your craft. The casting director is impressed. All of that adds up and you will get a booking from it. It just might not be the one you're expecting. So don't do it halfway. Give 120% every time, right? Be consistent.
Well, that is in our charter. That is what we fully believe. Totally. Exactly. It comes down to your reputation. Do you want to be giving half-assed work? Like that just reflects on you, like for that role or for others down the line. Like, yeah, I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So we are going to slowly start to wrap it up now, but we want to know what's next for Tania. What are your goals? What's going on?
Well, I think grow diversify the roster. You were talking about diversity. I think I want to see more Native actors. I want to see more ethnically diverse on my roster, and they don't always fall within my reach. I don't always get to see actors, so I'm looking, I want to have younger people on the roster, so I want to grow that. Work on myself too, because my kids are growing, so now that they're teens, I can invest more in myself, and I am working on a novel.
Nice.
So, or on novels. It's like a trilogy, so I'm like halfway through book 2. But anyways, that's a thing.
So
but
keeping your creative spirit alive. And I mean, although agencying is also creative, but you have your own personal creative story that you'd like to tell.
Right, exactly. I won't give too
Exciting.
much away, but it does involve the industry, so it's
Oh,
fun.
cool.
So it's all like a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes on.
And we make it into a series.
Totally,
Yes.
yeah.
And just cast.
I have this like imaginary production company that like there's so many projects I'm working on right now. We just need to find someone to fund it all, but
yeah, that's the next
Working on it.
step. Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Tania. I think I know it's so helpful, and everything you said is going to be so important for people to hear on
that was amazing.
what the actor's side of the story, the street, how to take care of it and build those relationships to make the most of your career. So for today's takeaways, 1, remain open-minded. 2, don't let your insecurities get in the way. 3, give your agent the tools they need to promote you. And 4, it's important to build your relationship with your agent based on open communication, trust, and respect. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye. If you're enjoying this podcast, we would really appreciate it if you could take a moment to support us.
Leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. You can share this podcast with your friends and colleagues and follow us on social media at Book the Room Podcast.
We put out episodes weekly, so subscribe to the shows to get